Well, greetings, Earthlings. We are going to talk today about one of my favorite things to talk about, and that is how is it that a book and a movie of the same, the same kind of text are similar and different. Now, lots of times, I have so many questions to ask people when I talk about this. Did you read The Hunger Games? If so, did you also see the movie? And if you saw and read both, did you like one better? Divergent, did you read the book? Did you see the movie? Because it offers us a very rich and detailed description and analysis of how these forms of the text are alike and different. I want to explain one thing. That is, when we talk about text, so if we're talking about Freak the Money, we're talking about the text. A lot of times people think the text is the book, okay? Not exactly right, okay? If we're talking about the text, it can be either the movie or the book, all right? I just want to make that clear to you. So, if you look on the screen here, we have the cover of Freak the Mighty, at least one of the covers. There were multiple covers. And then you have a picture here of Freak and Max Freak the Mighty, from the movie, which you're going to watch today. And I want to talk about a couple of different things. So, I want you to be thinking as we go through, what are books that you've read that have been better than the movie? And is there ever been a movie that you've seen and read the book where the movie was better? I want to make sure that people understand that the movies can be very good. They're going to be different. Like, I really thought The Hunger Games was well done, the movie version. I thought the book was better, I admit it, but I thought the books were really good. Or excuse me, the movies were really good, okay? So here's what I want to talk about. And I kind of talked about this already. When is the last time you read a book, then saw the movie? How about the other way around? Have you ever read a play, then actually seen the play? You'll probably do a lot more of this as you get into the older grades. And have you ever heard poetry read aloud? Have you ever been to a poetry reading? Well, when you do this, you are seeing and are reading the same text presented in a different way. And one good thing about the Common Core, which I'm sure you've heard of before, is this is actually a standard. Okay, this is something they expect you to do. And what it says is compare and contrast the experience of reading a story, a drama, or poem to listening to or viewing an audio, video, or live version of the text, including contrasting, in other words, how they're different, differentiating what they see and hear when reading the text to what they perceive when they listen to or watch. That's very interesting because I don't know if you've ever read a book and had in your mind your own idea of what that character looked like, and then seen the movie and it was completely different from how you imagined. Today in Freak the Mighty, I had imagined both Freak and Max to look completely different than the way they are presented in the movie. Those of you in my language arts class know I tend to read like this when I do the Freak voice. Not like this at all in the movie, as you're going to see. So, when you're comparing and contrasting different forms of the text, think about the questions below. Is the description of the... Oops, sorry about that. Let me go back here. Is the description of the character in the text different from the one presented in the movie? Are they basically the same character, or is the movie version or the other version completely different? This is really common in differences between the books and the movie. Are there any big events in the movie that are, or excuse me, any big events in the book that are missing from the movie? Did the movie add events that are not in the book? Are the characters the same in both versions? And did they take characters away? Did they add characters? Did they give characters who had small roles in the book a bigger role in the movie, and vice versa? I want you to think about setting too. You saw the movie was different than how you imagine in your head when you read it. That's one thing I want to say. Okay, are the characters the same in both versions? And I want you to think about setting. Was the setting in the movie different from the one in the book? If you read the book first, then saw the movie, how was the movie different than how you imagined it in your head when you read it? I'm not necessarily talking about how you imagine how the character would look. I'm just thinking about some of the action sequences. I want you to think for a second about Max and Freak going to Iggy's and Loretta's apartment. I have a very clear idea of what those apartments look like. And I want you to think about in your head how you imagine those apartment buildings, the tenement buildings where Iggy and Loretta live and where Killer Kane takes Max later in the story, how they look in your head. And then I want you to compare that to what is actually presented to you on the screen. Okay. I also want you to think about how the movie uses music and camera angles for creative effect. When you're reading a book, you don't have that. The only thing you have is what's going on in your mind. Unless you are listening to music at the same time as you're watching the movie, or excuse me, as you're reading the book, you really are just, it's up to your mind to decide how you want to interpret that. They can't add music for that. Now, you'd probably think that language arts teachers would think that the book is always better than the movie. Well, generally, yes, I admit it. I think a lot of times that is absolutely true. However, both forms of the text have advantages. So when you read the text, when you read the book, there's a couple things. You are reading it as the author originally envisioned it. Next, you are able to get inside the characters and plot because of the author's power of description. The author can't rely on a screen and visuals and music. He or she can only rely on the power of his or her words in describing. And what I think is most powerful about reading the book is you're able to make a movie in your head because all you have is the written text, which is very powerful and provokes you to think on the part of the reader. And as you read a book, you are creating this movie in your head instead of someone creating it for you. But there are also some advantages to watching the movie version or seeing a play version. Number one, you see actors interpreting the words in a unique way. I want you to pay attention to how Sharon Stone, who plays Freak's mom, Fair Gwen, I want you to see how she acts out her parts. And is that different from how you imagined it to be? Next, you see the way music, staging, costumes, and sound effects can add or change the written text and add drama to the written words. And then you can also see how the person who is directing or staging the show has interpreted the written text. I'm sure you guys have heard of Steven Spielberg, who's a director, or J.J. Abrams, who is directing the new Star Wars movies. They have their own vision for how something should be presented. So even though they may not have written the book or written the script in the case of a movie that wasn't a book before, they have their own idea of what it should look like on screen. Then it says, one big difference between written text and staged or movie text is that the staged movie text, you don't have the advantage of being inside a character's head. Where a good author spends a lot of time describing what is going on in the character's head, we really get a great idea of what is going on inside of Max's head. His insecurities, his fears, his lack of self-esteem, we get that very clearly. One common quote I hear from people who like to read is, I like the movie, but the book was way better. And one common quote I hear from people who don't love to read is, I didn't read the book, I just saw the movie. And I think that's okay. I think it's impossible to always read the book and see the movie. However, I really would encourage you to always read the book first. I know that sounds like, of course, I'm going to say that I'm the crazy language arts teacher, but I do think it's very beneficial for you to do that. Because if you see the movie first, I want you to think about what's a disadvantage of seeing the movie first and then reading the book. My number one disadvantage, I think, is that you then already have this idea of what was presented to you, and you can't make up your own movie in your head as you're reading the book. All right. So here's what you're going to do. Okay, I want to be kind of clear about this. All right. You have here, well, let me say this first. You're going to watch Freak the Mighty, the movie. It's called The Mighty, actually. And you see this terrible picture I have in front of you. There's a Venn diagram. And if you just dropped in from Mars, a Venn diagram shows you there's two circles, just like you see on the screen, where you're putting ways that they are the same and the ways they are different in the two circles. Now, this is incorrect. It says Max and Freak. What it's going to say, and the one you have actually is going to say the movie version, and it's going to be the book version. And you're going to talk about similarities and differences. So ways the book are the same, book and movie are the same, are going to go in the middle, and the ways they are different are going to go on the outside, okay, in the outer part of the circle. So as you're watching the movie, I want you to go ahead and jot those down. I'm looking for 3 or 4, maybe a few more. And I'm looking for big ones. I'm looking for bigger ideas. You don't want to say a similarity is that they're both boys. Well, duh, okay? that's not sixth grade level work. All right. So here's what it says. Now, once you're done with that, once you are finished with that, you are going to write a short essay. I don't even like to use the word essay, but I guess that's what it is. It's basically 2 paragraphs. In this essay, you'll be comparing and contrasting the novel version of Freak the Mighty to the film version of Freak the Mighty, which is simply called The Reminder. A reminder, as I just talked about, to compare and contrast means to explain how something is alike and different. So what you're going to do is you're going to watch the movie version of the text. You're going to fill in the Venn diagram as you watch the movie, and we are looking for big differences, just like I said, not ones that are very small. We want on the Venn diagram 5 good similarities and 5 differences. And then using your Venn diagram, you begin to construct your comparison analysis. This is just your essay or your 2 paragraphs. You have 2 paragraphs. The first paragraph will present at least 3 similarities in depth between the novel and the film. The second paragraph will present at least 3 differences in depth between the novel and the film. Each of the 2 paragraphs must have an appropriate topic sentence, and every paragraph is expected to have an appropriate topic sentence as modeled for you in class. Then after you're done, read over your analysis before you submit your work. So, before we start, you are going to have this shared with you. It says compare and contrast Freak the Mighty prompt. And then I have directions. What you're going to need to do, this is really important. You make a copy of this document, okay? You name it appropriately, however your language arts teacher tells you to do it. Share the document with your language arts teacher and make sure you turn off email notifications so you don't get 100 emails. Then your response will have 2 paragraphs. The top one will be for the similarities between the book and the movie. The second one will be differences between the book and the movie. So top one is similarities, bottom one is differences. Make sure each of the 2 paragraphs has a topic sentence, and make sure each paragraph has 3. First one, 3 good similarities. Second one, 3 big differences. So in each of the paragraphs, topic sentence, and then 3 supporting sentences. So I even made this for you. Similarities and differences, okay? Don't pay any attention to this line. I'll move that down when you actually write this. So again, you're going to talk about similarities between the book and the movie version, in this top one for similarities, and then the differences. You're going to talk about how is the book and movie different. All right, hope you really enjoy this activity. We're really enjoying this year with you and hope you enjoy this, and we want to wish everyone a happy holiday break, okay?